All right, let's get right into it. Do modern men expect something from women that they aren't willing to offer themselves? Well, today we're breaking down a pretty provocative article by Coach De Bruins, and he argues that the answer is a big fat yes. He's aiming to expose what he calls a core hypocrisy right at the heart of Western dating culture. So, right out of the gate, the author hits us with this really bold claim. He's saying, look, there's this massive double standard. Men are out there championing a culture where sleeping around is fine for them, but then they turn around and complain that they can't find good women to marry because of that exact same culture. This is the central idea, the big contradiction his entire piece is built on. So, how does he build this case? Well, he starts by really zeroing in on this central contradiction, looking at the huge clash between what men say they want and how they actually behave. Now, to really follow his logic, we got to get our heads around a key term he pulls from the manosphere, the alpha widow. The whole idea here is that after a woman has been with a so-called high-value guy, she's then supposedly kind of ruined for any other man who doesn't quite measure up. You want to keep this concept in your back pocket because it's pretty crucial to his later points about the dating pool. And this is where he really puts that double standard on full display. It's so clear. On one side, you have the actions, men bragging about a high body count, about having been with lots of women. But then you look at the other side, at their desires, and it's a completely different story. They want a chaste partner for marriage, and they complain when women have the very history that they themselves are proud of. As the author sees it, the math just doesn't add up. And this leads him to ask a pretty timeless question, right? As you sow, so shall you reap? He's essentially just asking, how can you actively participate in and promote a culture of casual sex and then act surprised when you can't find a partner who's been completely untouched by it? Okay, so after laying out this whole problem, the author doesn't just stop there and complain. In this next section, he actually tries to completely reframe the entire conversation. He suggests that maybe we're not even asking the right questions about relationships in the first place. His argument kicks off by challenging a really basic assumption we all have. We usually think the choice for society is between monogamy, one man, one woman, and polygyny, which is one man with multiple wives. But he's here to argue that that's not the real choice we're facing at all. And here is the big twist in his argument. He says that what we call monogamy in the West today isn't really that. It's more like serial monogamy at best, or just widespread promiscuity at worst. So he totally reframes the debate. He says the real choice isn't monogamy versus polygyny. No, he says it's between total chaotic promiscuity and a more structured polygyny. So what's causing all this chaos, according to him? He points the finger at two main things. First, what he calls a deregulation of the sexual marketplace, basically a free-for-all with no clear rules. And second, and this is the interesting part, something he calls enforced monogamy. He thinks the social and legal pressure for everyone to pair up one-on-one actually, ironically, just fuels the whole cycle of short-term dating and breaking up. So after diagnosing the problem, the author moves on to his proposed solution, what he calls a regulated alternative. He makes a case for a system that steps away from what he sees as Western chaos and moves towards one that's built on clear rules and real formal accountability. This table pretty much lays out his entire comparison. On the left, you've got the Western model, as he describes it, deregulated, potentially leading to huge numbers of partners for everyone, but, and this is the key, with no formal responsibility. Now look at the right. He presents his view of a polygynous model. Here, the market is regulated, a man is limited to a few partners who are his actual wives, and the most crucial difference is the consequence. He must provide for all of them. It's all about responsibility. And to really drive this point home, he uses this really great metaphor. He says that in the system he's proposing, a man digs deep and strikes water, meaning he's building lasting families, even if it's with multiple wives. He contrasts that with the Western model, which in his view is just making a whole lot of shallow holes through casual hookups that don't really lead anywhere. So, after all that analysis and comparison, where does he leave us? Well, he brings it all together for his final section, a direct, personal challenge aimed right at men in the West. He basically lays out a three-step path. Step 1, he makes the claim that men are the ones in charge of the sexual marketplace. Step 2, okay, so if they're in charge, that means they have the power to just say no to the whole promiscuity thing. And step 3, the final piece of his logic, only by being chaste themselves do they actually become eligible for the chaste women they say they want. He really brings his argument to a close with his powerful quote. You get what you help create. And then he makes that direct contrast with his own cultural framework, saying that the obligation for men to take women honorably in marriage is the very thing that supports the cultural expectation of female chastity. In his mind, you just can't have one without the other. And that's where we end, on the really provocative question the author leaves his audience with. It perfectly sums up the dilemma he's been presenting this whole time. He's asking, are you going to keep sleeping around and yet demand that women be chaste? And he just lays it on the line. You literally can't have it both ways. He forces his readers to face that contradiction he's spent the entire article spelling out.